junkies, welcome back to Twin Flicks, where we're here celebrating magical movies and physical media with you. So today we are taking a closer look at Warner Archive's first 4K UHD release, and that is The Searchers. Now before we dive into the comparison review between the previous release Blu-ray, I would like to just take a quick minute to discuss what makes this 4K release so important. And it's much more than just Warner Archive's first UHD title. This was almost a 2-year journey to restore this film. And it's fascinating how they achieved restoring an almost 70-year-old film where the negative has been deteriorated back to its original theatrical appearance. So I had the privilege of being invited on a Zoom call along with other reviewers and journalists with Warner Archive. The Zoom call was with George Feldstein and his team. Now George Feldstein oversees Warner Archive, and they went into detail about this restoration work. And I wrote down a bunch of information, but I just want to share with you very briefly some key points on this restoration. And this press release that came with this from Warner Archive, it scratches the very bare surface of what they went into. It just merely states the restoration used the original camera negative and the yellow separation protection master. However, during the phone call with George Feldstein and his team, there was much more that went into this restoration than that. His team went on to explain that The Searchers 4K restoration, again, was a painstaking journey that began in October 2023. The team used the original VistaVision negative, but also used what's called a blue channel replacement, which is the blue separation protection master. The reason being is because the blue layer in the original negative was deteriorated. It was unsalvageable. However, they discovered there was holes in this blue separation, and this forced the restorers to merge its blue record with the red and green and yellow records, creating a hybrid of sorts. Doing this was really the only way to bring The Searchers back to its original theatrical presentation and color grading. The whole goal was not just restoring the film back to its original theatrical appearance, or as close to, but it was also the goal of preserving this film for future generations to come. Alright, well it's that time. Let's take a closer look at Warner Archive's 4K UHD presentation of The Searchers against the previously released Blu-ray from Warner Brothers. Let's first start off with a color reproduction, with a more natural, modest tone to it, along with colors that have been corrected. Prime examples here is John Wayne's red shirt that always leaned on a more orangey, faded color on the Blu-ray. Now with the 4K scan, his shirt looks like how it should, as a more maroon red color. But I think the biggest and most notable improvement are the skylines. They had a slight yellow tinge to it that affected the blue skies having a dulled down look. The 4K scan, we now have those natural looking brilliant blue skies that blends in much better with the imagery. And of course, this review can't be complete without talking about all the desert landscapes of Monument Valley, Arizona, which the film was shot. The 4K scan, we now have a much broader and more nuanced color palette, with all these stunning shots using different shades of tans and browns, oranges, and sun-baked golden yellows that covers the desert sands and rocky peaks, along with vibrant, fiery sunsets. The Blu-ray or any other home media release did not reproduce or could not faithfully reproduce these different nuanced colors, to the point where it really looks like to me someone cranked up the saturation and the hues to try to force the image to look like how it should. Instead, it just looks overly hot and a little overexposed. The 4K really soaks up the beautiful, rich cinematography and beautiful vistas that seem to go on for miles. It's just absolutely stunning to look at. White levels is something of note as well. The snow during the wintry scenes on any home media release, including the Blu-ray, I've never seen the snow look right. There was always a slight blue hue in the snow. The 4K scan, we now have the snow how it should look, with crisp, bright white snow. And it's very eye-catching when you have characters dressed in black or brown against the snow-filled landscapes. And now we come into the black levels. And the Blu-ray, the black levels were bright black. It wasn't too egregious. I mean, you could definitely get by with it, but what the 4K UHD does with the HDR10 and Dolby Vision grading is really enhance the black levels. And what this does is it produces very striking silhouettes and extraordinary shadow delineation. This really also helps near the end of the film, such as this shot here. It draws out much more information now in the image and extra depth. The image quality is also very striking here with this 4K. The new 4K scan brings us higher resolution that gives more finer lines within the image, presenting an image that's as razor sharp and as clear as it can be without having to go into any kind of AI tools or smoothing out. And all the finer details look exquisite, especially the dusty desert landscapes that leap off the screen, along with textures from costumes to wood grain, even down to upholstery of furniture. Just to name a few, it's all there. It's just all much more tangible now, which is something that was very lacking on any home media release, including the previous Blu-ray. Now, the part of the 4K that I was really taken back by was the large expanses of snow and desert sand that now shows plenty of detail and textures and plenty of nuances. The film finally, at long last, finally has more depth and three-dimensionality, giving an outstanding amount of visual appeal and spaciousness that has never been seen before in home media, really allowing the beautiful and rich cinematography to breathe. The Searchers has never looked more beautiful and alive than it does here in 4K. The bitrate on The Searchers is excellent, ranging from the mid-80s, and I saw it top out in the low 100s Mbps, and the film is on a 100 gigabyte disc. The Searchers has always had a very little grain to it, almost invisible, and the 4K retains this grain field that has a very fine layer and well managed, giving the Searchers a very faithful filmic appearance. Now, as far as the audio presentation of The Searchers on 4K, on Warner Archive, George Feldstein and his team very wisely decided to preserve the original mono track with a nice little boost to it, giving this track a lossless DTS mono 2-track mix that absolutely topples the Blu-ray. Alright guys, so here it is, my score for The Searchers on 4K UHD from Warner Archive, a 5 out of 5 for video and audio. This is Warner Archive's crown jewel of their physical media titles that was released last month in 2024, and I cannot wait to see what 4K titles George Feldstein and his crew has in store for us next.